informed about this session. So this session is gonna very informative. So listen carefully for a while, and I will end the session in 45 minutes. Moving on to the screen. Everyone, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can.
So guys, Uniform Civil Code. It's a entirely a very big topic. We will be discussing about this in three phases. Okay, the first phase will cover about basic concept of Uniform Civil Code. Why is it in news? The beginnings, the roots actually, and the context of the debate. Why it is being addressed in media houses and in parliament even. Then in the phase two, we will discuss about the events before and after independence, analysis of UCC, the Constituent Assembly debates, contemporary developments, and in the last phase, we will go to the advantages and disadvantages of Uniform Civil Code, and what is hypocrisy behind it, and who are the people behind that. So the first phase अब मैं start करता हूँ. So the first is basic concept of UCC. So you must first know what is Uniform Civil Code. In very simple terms, it connotes to replace personal laws based on the scriptures and customs of each recognized religious community with a common set of rules governing every citizen. Now, since you know India is a very diverse country, different religions, tribal people are living in India. They practice their religious laws. Okay, it is good, but somehow these religious practices are discriminatory towards a section of the society, women. So, Uniform Civil Code replaces all these personal laws based on the scriptures and respective religions, and the laws will be codified, and a single law will be implemented for the entire nation. And it's called One Nation, One Law. Now, the second point is universal, uh, Uniform Civil Code promises to be a universal law. Now, how it will be a universal law? We will go to this point in the next slide, few slides, where we will see that few of the laws in the Constitution of India contradict each other in respective civil cases filed by citizens of India. And the third is it is mandated upon the state under Article 44 of the Constitution as directive principle of state policy. डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी कहने का मतलब ये होता है कि कुछ ऐसे प्रिंसिपल्स हैं हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में विच आर नॉन बाइंडिंग इन नेचर एंड दे आर नॉट एनफोर्सेबल बाय कोर्ट्स फॉर देयर वायलेशन बट they allow the state to form some laws in with accordance so as to promote welfare of people. I mean to say that कि ये acts अभी तक enacted नहीं होते हैं but हमारे constitution स्टेट गवर्नमेंट कहने का मतलब कि जो भी उस नेशन पे अभी कंट्रोल अथॉरिटी है उसको ये प्रोवाइड करता है कि वो इस पे एक्शंस ले सकता है. तो आर्टिकल 44 of the directive principle in the constitution says that state shall endeavor to provide for its citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India, irrespective of any religion, any caste, no discrimination shall be allowed. Now, what are the personal laws? तो पर्सनल लॉज अब हम किसी पर्टिकुलर रिलीजन की बात करें जैसे हिंदूज की बात करें तो उनके रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस कुछ डिफरेंट होंगे फ्रॉम मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी फ्रॉम ज्यूज कम्युनिटी फ्रॉम क्रिश्चियन कम्युनिटी. So those personal laws are the laws regarding marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, and maintenance. These are the five most important personal laws. However, there are certain other personal laws, but these are the most prominent. Now, why is it in news? Why Uniform Civil Code is being discussed all over the nation in media houses? So it is because two times in the recent few years, it has been passed as a private member bill in the past few months in Rajya Sabha. It was in 2019 and 2018. I will tell you the names. The first one is BJP Member of Parliament from Rajasthan, Hirodi Lal Meena. He told that UCC will protect the personal rights of all citizens without considering the religion and is the need of hour. The second one is also a BJP MP from Rajasthan. He also told the same thing. But what happened? the opposition urged the chairman of the Rajya Sabha and opposed this bill. And they do not want this bill to be passed in the constitution. However, it is. Now, this is the ongoing point of debate. And in the recent Supreme Court decisions, we have seen that Supreme Court on 13 September 2019 batted for framing UCC and ruled no attempts have been made to achieve this object despite exhortations by the top court. Now, what is happening around here? Three.
Yes, Sunny, able to hear you.
Okay. Okay. Now, the second thing is in 2014, BJP won the elections, and in its manifesto, it is a mandate. It has promised the citizens of country to implement UCC. Now we have several reasons why we need to study about UCC because it is a hot topic in the nation. UCC is desired by certain communities. UCC is not desired by certain communities. We will have to know about UCC. Now we will go to the beginnings of UCC. Where has it come from? अगर हम UCC की बात करें तो it is Uniform Civil Code which is going to codify the personal laws irrespective of religion. तो यहाँ पे main focus करा गया था women को because women are however discriminated on religious practices in respective religions, whether it is Muslims, whether it is Hindus, whether it is Christians. There are certain laws that govern them and they are discriminated. But fundamental right of our constitution provide us rights not to provide us right to follow anything. It means they must not be discriminated. Now we go back to 1829, the abolition of sati practice. Sati practice was abolished in 1829. You must be aware about sati practice. Now, how it is connected to UCC? Actually, things started then. उस समय ब्रिटिश इंडिया थी. Sati practice was not at all a good practice. So it must be abolished. So 1829 में General, let me tell you his name. Okay, some general, I'm missing the name. He abolished the sati practice, and 1834 first law commission was established, was set up. Now, what was its functioning? Its function was to enact some certain laws in the country, whether it is criminal law, whether it is civil law, or any other law. And in that law, there was a report, Lex Lacy report, which was passed in 1840. What was this Lex Lacy report? Lex Lacy report was actually for the law of land for non-Hindus and non-Muslims. They termed some areas which were not under the capital regions of the British India, that is Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta, as Muflu regions, that is rural areas. And there were some people, certain a finite number of population who were neither Hindus nor Muslims, and they do not have any law of land. So they must be codified for it. So Lex Lacy report set the foundation of a codification of a uniform law on civil background. The second law of commission was passed in 1853. It has 4 reports. The second report was passed in 1856. It had something related to Uniform Civil Code. So second report was like it enacted that a substantive civil law for persons in the Mofussil areas who had no law of their own must be made, but no attempts to be made for Hindus and Muslims. Now, what is happening around in here? You see, British India has used the divide and rule policy in a very explicated manner because they do not want to discriminate Hindus and Muslims. They do not wanted to codify the laws of Hindus and Muslims, and they were more focused on economic exploitation of the country. तो सेकेंड लॉ ऑफ कमीशन में उन्होंने इस चीज को सेकेंड रिपोर्ट में कह दी कि सिविल लॉज मस्ट बी मेड, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल लॉज मस्ट बी मेड, बट ओनली फॉर दोज हु आर नॉट निदर हिंदूज नॉर मुस्लिम. तो इस तरह से राइट्स ऑफ हिंदूज and Muslims to practice their religion were provided to them. In 1858, Queen Victoria's proclamation happened, and she promised that there will be no interference in the religious matters. So this was a great victory for British India. Actually, it worked in a very supportive manner for them to rule for another 90 years. Third Law of Commission happened in 1861. There were also some important reports passed in it. One of it was Code of Succession and Inheritance for Indian, other than Hindus and Muslims. And the second one was Code on Transfer of Property and Easements. These were all passed to empower women who were discriminated on some practices in their religion or whatever. But these were only for women who were neither Hindus and nor Muslims. Only for non-Hindu and non-Muslim community. So there were 4 law of commissions in British India. Now coming to the context of the debate, I will wrap up this phase one. Wait for a while. Now the context of the debate. Now what is happening in our media houses? There are some debates ongoing for the last 6 to 7 years when BJP came into power, and the context of the debate is on 3 points. The first is legitimacy, majority versus minority, and gender inequality. Now what is this legitimacy? Now, what was in British India? We do not have a legitimate authority for the people of India to establish some laws which would which would be irrespectively for every section of the society. But now in independent India, there is no external constraint we can see that can prevent the Indian government. Thus, we must enact this uniform civil code if it has some surplus advantages over its disadvantages. Now we have a legitimate government, but also we are not enacting it. Rather, it is mentioned in Article 44 of the Directive of State Policy that state shall think about it. Now, the second point is majority versus minority. Now, who are the majority in our countries? Hindus are actually the majority in the countries. And whenever I am talking about Hindus, it means the Sanatan Dharma follower. Jain, Sikh, Buddhist are always included in it. And the minorities are Muslims, Jews, Christians, and Parsis. So it's not like minorities are only opposing to the principle of UCC, but some major section of Hindus are also opposing it. Now, why they are opposing it? Because they have some customs among them in many caste and communities at different respective regions of the society. And the third one is gender inequality. UCC promises that it will evacuate gender inequality from nation by integrating nation on not on the basis of gender. And there are certainly two questions here. Could religious practices be employed to deny basic fundamental rights and freedoms to women? Could not uniform civil code be employed to rectify the errors of a rigid discriminatory society and bring greater equity and compassion into social life? These are the two most important questions. The first one tells कि क्या religious practices को हमें अलाउ करना चाहिए कि वो किसी भी इंसान के बेसिक फंडामेंटल राइट को क्षति पहुंचाए. इट मीन्स लाइक वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स बट रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस के कारण कुछ राइट्स वुमेन को नहीं मिल पाते हैं. द सेकेंड थिंग इज क्या हम एक ऐसा लॉ नहीं बना सकते हैं जो इन सारे एरर्स को जो हमारे रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस में उपलब्ध हैं तो उनको हम लोग सम रिफॉर्मिंग मूवमेंट लॉज इनैक्ट करके उनको खत्म करें और एक जेंडर इक्वालिटी बनाए. तो दीज आर द 3 मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ द डिबेट. तो आई हैव फिनिश्ड फर्स्ट फेज ऑफ द टॉपिक यूसीसी, जहां हम लोगों को पता चला यूसीसी क्या है. तो यूसीसी यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड connotes to replace all the personal laws based on scriptures, and there will be one law for the entire nation. Personal laws contains marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, maintenance. We will look afterwards कि यूसीसी आखिर पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में एंटर कैसे करा, आर्टिकल 44 आखिर बना कैसे, ये सब हम लेटर ऑन देखेंगे. तो आर्टिकल 44 है क्या, ये हमें अभी ध्यान रखने की जरूरत है. इट स्टेट्स दैट state shall endeavor to provide for its citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. When it is needed, state has the authority, government has the authority to do so. Then we saw कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी कहा कि इट इज अ मैटर ऑफ डेड फैक्ट कि गवर्नमेंट इस चीज पे फोकस नहीं कर रही है. बीजेपी ने अपने इलेक्शन मैनिफेस्टो में भी इसको कहा है. ये डिबेट बहुत बड़ा चल रहा है. 2 बार प्राइवेट बिल मेंबर पास हुआ बट दे वर अपोज्ड बाय द अपोजिशन. बिगिनिंग्स में हमने देख ली कि यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड 1829 फिर 1834 में धीरे धीरे इसने अपने आप को किस तरह से वाइडन करा. हमने कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ द डिबेट भी देख लिया है. Okay, now if there are any question or any interaction you want to do for the phase one, we can go through it.
Yeah, guys, आपके पास अभी कोई सवाल है? If you have any questions, you want to ask anything, you please raise your hand. You can use the feature on your Webex to raise your hand so that I can ask you to unmute yourself and ask the question to Sunny. कोई भी सवाल हो आपके
You can
पास?
even tell me if I'm going very fast. You can tell me.
Yeah, you can give a feedback as well. I mean, for me, it was really great. I was able to catch everything that he was shooting at us. But if at all the speed and the style, anything it has to be changed, you can let us know now itself. Okay. Okay. All right. I don't think anyone has any questions. Sunny, I have one question. So,
Yes.
like we spoke about how the Universal Civil Code covers everything from marriage to divorce to all the personal laws, right? And we saw how
Mm-hmm.
triple talaq was abolished in India. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, can we see this as a precursor to bringing in the Universal Civil Code, as in, like, the great opposition was, of course, Congress and then the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, right? And even we saw
Yes.
that in the Sahabanu case, where back when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister, and the
Mhm.
decision of Supreme Court was reverted based on the religious sentiments of Muslims. So,
Mhm.
abolishing triple talaq, can it be seen as a precursor to bring in the greater uniform civil code?
Yes, exactly. We can say it because you are talking about Shah Bano case. We will discuss it in the presentation only.
Mm-hmm.
Rajiv Gandhi government opposed it, opposed the complete Supreme Court judgments over it. So we can see the hypocrisy of the opposition then, and now also we can see what this All India Personal Muslim Board is telling, and some other sects of the society are also telling. We will go to those slides and then we will go through it.
Sure, sure. I guess Garvit has a question. So, Garvit, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi Sunny. First, my
Hi, Garvit.
question is you say gender inequality. Gender inequality is one dimension of UCC. Can you throw some light on other dimensions? Means, what are the other dimensions of this UCC other than just gender inequality?
Other than gender inequality, okay, the context of the debate, that, as I have said you, that the first one is legitimacy. You are talking about the gender inequality context other than
Yeah,
gender inequality. Is it okay?
yeah. I am saying that UCC, one dimension of UCC is to bridge the gap between male and female. What are the other dimensions? Mean, which part of life does UCC touch other than gender, where it is affecting all of us? I mean, gender inequality is a very great dimension. It is the most important thing.
Right.
But other than it,
Oh, can you please elaborate? I cannot understand what's the question.
okay, my question is UCC is
Mm-hmm.
mainly about bridging the gap between male and female. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it is mainly about bridging the gap between male and female. What about any other thing? Means, what are the other aspects of life it is touching other than gender?
Other aspects of life, if I can talk about the wide section of the society, if I don't talk about gender, then I can compare it with the Muslim segment with the Hindu section. I can compare the other sections of the society because this uniform civil code is not, now we are a secular state, but uniform civil code is a midway between secularism and pluralism. So uniform civil code has a wide scope on religious factors on the basis of religions that are in India, Hindus and Muslims, they will be equated on it. Parsis and Christians, they will be equated on it. So it will not only work on the male and female sectors, but it will entirely work on religious sectors also.
Okay, thank you, Sunny. I got my answer.
Yeah. Okay. So, we have Garvit, if you got your answer, you may please lower your hand so that we don't get the repetitive people approaching Sunny. Okay, NCP has raised his hand. NCP, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. But before you do, I just saw a person messaging on the chat. Guys, I request you to refrain using such profanities
Okay.
on discussions like this because it goes on YouTube and official forums as well. And I can't even spell out your username like the way you have named it. So I urge you to please modify it. And if you have a question, yes, you can put up in proper words so that we can address it. But usage of such kind of profane languages, we won't entertain it absolutely. So yeah, NCP, you can go ahead.
हाँ मैं ये पूछना चाहता था हेलो
Yes.
हेलो हाँ मैं ये पूछना चाहता था अगर यूनिफॉर्म जेंडर इन इक्वलिटी पर आ जाएगा तो अगर जैसे लड़कियों के साथ रेप होने पर उनको तो रेप करने वाले को उम्र कैद या फिर फांसी दिया जाता है क्या वैसे ही लड़कों के साथ अगर जो रेप होते हैं छोटे बच्चों के साथ जो होता है तो उनको भी वही सजा मिलेगा इक्वल
Okay. Uniform Uniform Civil Code has not its draft ready. अभी उसमें क्या-क्या चीज़ इंक्लूड होने वाला है, ये अभी तक पता नहीं चला है। बिकॉज़ गवर्नमेंट ने
हाँ
अभी कभी ऐसा कुछ पेश नहीं करा है। दे हैव ओनली टॉक्ड अबाउट यूसीसी, हाउ विल इट बी ये हमें नहीं पता। बट अगर हम इसके पास्ट को ट्रेस करते हैं, जैसा हमने 1829 से देखा, तो यूसीसी का डिबेट और डिस्कशन तभी आया, जब बात हुई वुमेन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन की। हालाँकि जो आप पूछ रहे हो, ऐसा सेम एक डिबेट डिस्कशन में हुआ था, सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी ने कहा था कि व्हाई मेन सिमिलर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है कि व्हाई मेन फ्रॉम हिंदूज़ आर नॉट अलाउड टू मैरी more than one, while Muslim persons are Muslim males are allowed to do so. So there is also a difference. There is also discrimination between men. तो अभी क्रिमिनल लॉज की बात आप कर रहे हो, आप वहाँ पे क्रिमिनल की बात कर रहे हो कि अगर उसने रेप करा तो उस चीज़ की बात नहीं होती है अभी पर्सनल लॉज इसमें कंसिडर करे जा रहे हैं अगर हम उसको पास से ट्रेस करें तो द पर्सनल लॉज आर ऑलवेज रिलेटेड टू दिस divorce, marriage, adoption, inheritance, and maintenance.
Okay.
NCP,
Thank you, NCP. Subhojit has a question. Subhojit, you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
yes,
Hello. Am I audible?
yes, Subhajit.
Yes, I was asking that how we can use UCC to curb the halal economics and all that.
How can we use UCC to curb halal economics?
How can it? Yeah. How can we use it to limit it to an extent? Because it's becoming a menace. That's why this thing came into my mind. That's why I'm asking.
Yes. If you're talking about this, then I think that UCC will have to expand its legs from personal laws to economic also.
Hmm.
Because halal
That's
is
why.
something related to economic. Then UCC will have to expand its to laws beyond that. But for that, we already have uniform economic laws, economic laws. Then we will have to stick to that. But uniform civil code is actually mostly related to personal laws because in all the debates and discussion that happened in the past, in the recent, they only talk about this type of things: majority versus minority and gender inequality. The personal laws modifications needed to be done. So this is the
Okay. So
main point of
it can be done. No, it can be done
it can be
if
done,
it
but
does the economic.
yes, uniform economic laws are already there in India. We can have a session about it,
Okay.
and in those laws we can attack halalonomics and whatever you are talking about. In that context, we can talk about uniform economical laws. But we are talking about uniform civil codes, and civil codes are particularly applicable to the laws which govern
Personal, yeah.
citizen of a person of a country.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just to add on to what Sunny said, Subhajit and others, we did 2 sessions on halal. Our first session was on halal and how to counter this $2.3 trillion market hijacked by Islamists to bring in their culture and to abrogate the native culture of India. And even though it falls beyond the scope of UCC, but Sunny has rightly mentioned that if we extend UCC's part on the economic process, then we can tackle that as well. But there are other means to tackle halal as well, and we have discussed that in those 2 sessions. I'll share the YouTube video once it's ready, once it's uploaded, so you guys can catch up with that and go through the session, recapitulate it once to understand what we discussed and how we can bring it to the ground level of tackling halal and making the system a uniform one for everyone else to consume meat and other products. Okay, Sunny, I don't think anyone else has any questions, so you can go ahead with this next phase.
Okay, thank you. Now we are entering into the second phase. Now we have covered up what is UCC and everything right behind that. Now we will focus on some events which were before and after independence. And these events have some important evidences which tell us that yes, Uniform Civil Code is really necessary for this nation. So there were certain events happened before independence. There were some acts were enacted like Hindu Widow Remarriage Act, Married Women's Property Act, Hindu Inheritance Removal of Disabilities Act, Hindu's Women Right to Property. These are different acts. We do not need to go deep into those acts. 1941 and the passage of Hindu Code. And the other two we will discuss in short, the Special Marriage Act 1954 and Section 125 of Criminal Procedure. Now, what is this B.N. Rao Committee 1941? Now, if you see 1856 Hindu Widow Remarriage Act, 1874 Married Women's Property Act, so some acts were already being enacted. Some social reform movements were being carried out to empower women. So there was a need. What the Congress and then the other reformatory movements NGOs thought कि एक central authority होनी चाहिए who must be after the questions if there is need to codify the Hindu law. Now listen, I'm talking about Hindu law. They are not talking about the citizens of the country, but should the laws, should the codes, should the personal religious practices of Hindus be codified? All the Hindus. And whenever I'm talking about Hindus, I'm talking about Hindus, Buddhist, Jain, Sikhs. The people other who are not included in it are Muslims, Christians, Jews, and Parsis. So for that, B.N. Rao Committee was formed in 1941, which was a central official Hindu law committee. And it was about to examine the question of the necessity of common Hindu laws. What were its objectives? Its objective was to endow equal rights to women in keeping the modern trends of the society. Now, see, whenever there is a discussion about codification of personal laws or about debates of uniform civil code, we always have this women in context. The women discrimination is always in the context. It was all the B.N. Rao Committee was focused on reforming Hindu law in accordance with the scriptures. But there were endless discussions. There were debates. Some antagonists were there, protagonists were there, neutral people were there. Some asked why only Hindus are being considered. So there were certain debates and endless discussions. The Hindu Code Bill lapsed. Temporarily, it was suspended in 1948 and it was resubmitted in 1952. And conclusively, we have got Hindu codes. Now we will talk about Hindu Passage Code. Now we saw a common Hindu law committee was formed called B.N. Rao Committee in 1941. And all the Hindu codes were enacted till 1956. So Hindu Code Bill has a history of 15 years. And before that, many social reform movements were being carried out to empower women. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar in October 1947 in the Constituent Assembly said that all Hindus need to be codified and a Hindu bill needs to be created. However, in 1948, B.N. Rao Committee was lapsed. It was temporarily suspended because India got its independence in 1947 and there were some other more important issues to be done. Now, in 1952, now, how Hindu codes were passed, it can be covered in some other section because it will cover a lot of diplomacy between Congress leaders. And now Congress उस समय बहुत बड़ी पार्टी थी, right भी थे, left भी थे, सब थे उसमें. So it was a lot of discussion and debate. And how Nehru accomplished and passed these laws, वो हम किसी और सेशन में जरूर कवर करेंगे. So for now, we will know the acts which were passed for Hindus included Hindu Marriage Act, Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act, Adoptions and Maintenance Act. So these were some acts which were passed. But the question always remains, why was the personal law of the Hindus only being codified and why a uniform code for the entire populace was not being attempted by the farmers of the constitution? It is a very important thing. Why only Hindus and not the people who are not Hindus? Why they were bereft from this law. We will see it, what happened. We will discuss some quotations from Constitutional Assembly debates later on. But now, for now, we know Hindu courts were passed like this. Hindu Marriage Act, Hindu Succession Act, ये सारे acts आप अगर डिस्कशन में पूछना होगा तो मैं आपको एक एक कर बताऊंगा. Now we will analyze, we will have the analysis of Uniform Civil Code. अब हमने क्या देखा कि कुछ इवेंट्स हुए इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद और उन इंडिपेंडेंस के पहले भी और बाद भी, जो कि एक सेंट्रल कमिटी बैठी, जो सोशल रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट्स होते थे फॉर हिंदू वुमेन. पहले तो ब्रिटिश इंडिया में 18 मतलब जब तक लॉ कमीशन थे तब वो नन मुस्लिम्स तक करते थे. फिर उसके बाद सोशल रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट्स हुए जिसमें हिंदू वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट की बातें हुई. उसके बाद फिर एक कमिटी बैठी और हमने 1956 में वी गॉट दिस हिंदू हिंदू बिल. और उसी समय डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल डायरेक्ट स्टेट आर्टिकल 44 ऑफ द डायरेक्टिव स्टेट पॉलिसी में वो चीज इनैक्ट किया गया कि यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड मस्ट बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड, स्टेट शैल थिंक अबाउट इट. तो ये कैसे हुआ, ये हम शॉर्ट डिस्क्रिप्शन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल असेंबली डिबेट्स के टॉपिक में देखेंगे. तो अब हम लोग यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड का एनालिसिस करते हैं. नाउ फॉर नाउ हिंदू कोड विल हैव बीन पास्ड, और जो मुस्लिम्स हैं, क्रिश्चियंस हैं, उनके लिए अलग एक्ट्स हैं, सेपरेट एक्ट्स है. ऑल द हिंदूज हैव बीन कोडिफाइड इनटू अ सेंट्रल लॉ. बाकी सब अलग है. 1937 में शरीयत एक्ट हुआ था जिसके अनुसरण पे ये मुस्लिम्स के पर्सनल लॉज चलते हैं. तो हम लोग 3 केस की बात करेंगे. जैसा श्री बात कर रहे थे, मोहम्मद अहमद खान और शाह बानो बेगम का केस 1978 में, सरला मुदगल एंड अदर्स वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया 1995, डेनियल लैटिफी एंड अदर्स वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया एंड 2001. इन तीनों केसेस के बिहाफ पे हम लोग इस चीज को देखेंगे कि क्यों यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड जरूरी है इंडिया में, व्हाई इज इट नेसेसरी. और इसमें बहुत ही की ऑब्जर्वेशंस आए हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट के. और ये सारे केसेस आप देख सकते हो 80s 90s के हैं, जब इंदिरा गांधी गवर्नमेंट थी, जब राजीव गांधी गवर्नमेंट थी. तो वी कैन कंपेयर कि हाउ दीज, बिकॉज दीज केसेस वेर मोर इम्पोर्टेंट. इसके अलावा बहुत सारे ऐसे केसेस हैं, मोर देन 3. देयर आर hundreds of cases like this, but I will discuss 3 to highlight those points. Now, Shah Bano Begum case. Now, what is Shah Bano Begum case? Shah Bano was married to a person, name is Muhammad Ahmad Khan, and he is a lawyer. He was a lawyer. What happened that he married to a young girl. एक यंग लड़की से वो शादी कर लेता है. जब शाह बानो के 3 बच्चे, 3 sons and 2 daughters हैं, and she is 62 years old. एंड वो उसे ट्रिपल तलाक देता है, तलाक तलाक तलाक. और उसके बाद वो एक यंग लड़की से शादी कर लेता है. तो फॉर दैट शाह बानो बेगम कोर्ट में अपील करती है अंडर सेक्शन 125 ऑफ क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर, जो कि हमने यहाँ देखा था. नाउ वी विल नो व्हाट इज सेक्शन 125 ऑफ क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर. इसके अकॉर्डिंग ये है कि अगर कोई भी मेल अपनी वाइफ को छोड़ता है, leaves him divorce दिए बिना और marriage to someone else, then he is guilty of it and he will have to provide maintenance. तो उसके अगेंस्ट उसने ये अपील करी. तो ये बहुत सारी ये केस बहुत ही बड़ी केस स्टडी है एक्चुअली. डिफरेंट टाइम्स पे अलग अलग कोर्ट ने बोला कि इसे 25 रुपए महीने के देने हैं, फिर इट इंक्रीज टू 179. तो इट वाज हैपनिंग लाइक दिस एंड देयर वाज, और इस पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट भी आया. यस, मतलब शाह बानो के केस में जजमेंट दिया सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, but this was not accepted by Muslim law board. Why? Because it was against the Shariat law, the so called Shariat law उसके against था. कैसे against था? तो उसके लिए हम लोग इदात पीरियड एक होता है. There is an इदात पीरियड. इदात पीरियड in Islam states कि if if there is a widow, अगर कोई widow है या फिर someone whose husband has left him, so he will have to she will get maintenance till इदात पीरियड. इदात पीरियड वो होता है जैसे कि दिस इज enacted in Islamic law to check out if she is pregnant or not. Can tell you more about it if you ask in the interactive session. तो अभी यहाँ पे बस हम ये जानेंगे इदात पीरियड एक सर्टेन समय के लिए होता है, एक सर्टेन टाइम के लिए होता है. इस समय तक इसे मेंटेनेंस मिलेगा, आफ्टर दैट ये नहीं मिलेगा. जैसे कि अगर किसी का हस्बैंड की डेथ हो जाती है इन इस्लाम, उस वुमेन की, तो उसे 3 महीने का मिलता है. एंड इट इज अ फिक्स टाइम इन शरीयत actually 3 months and it's a 90 days, I think. Yes, it's 90 or 80 days, something like that. So till then she will get the maintenance. उसके बाद हस्बैंड की कोई लीगल अथॉरिटी नहीं होती है कि उसे मेंटेनेंस देना है या नहीं देना. तो अंडर दैट शी रजिस्टर्ड अ केस. तो शाहबानो केस में तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जजमेंट उनके अगेंस्ट नहीं दिया, उनके लिए दिया. बट व्हाट हैपेंड, द यू टर्न कम व्हेन राजीव गांधी गवर्नमेंट थॉट that this is going to criticize minorities and we will lose our votes in the upcoming elections. This is stated, you can read it. 1984 में एंटी सिख राइट्स हुए थे, तो उसके बाद माइनॉरिटीज बहुत डरे हुए थे, ऐसे कांग्रेस समझते हैं, और आज भी माइनॉरिटीज डरे ही हुए हैं हमारे नेशन में, है ना, शुरू से डरे हुए, आज तक डरे हुए हैं. तो उन्होंने कहा कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं होगा, और उन्होंने सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट को यू टर्न करते हुए एक नया एक्ट बना दिया, मुस्लिम विमेन प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ राइट्स इन डिवोर्स एक्ट 1986 में आया, जिसने बोला कि सेक्शन 125 इज नॉन ऑपरेबल फॉर मुस्लिम वुमेन. नाउ सेक्शन 125 के अकॉर्डिंग तो शाहबानो ने बोला कि मुझे मेंटेनेंस के पैसे चाहिए, बट नाउ राजीव गांधी ने ये बना दिया मुस्लिम वुमेन एक्ट कि नो, you are not authorized to get it, you will get the money till idat period, something like this. He enacted it. So this was a very wrong decision by Rajiv Gandhi, because it criticized one section of the society, Muslims. And there was a term mentioned by Supreme Court that justice to all is far more satisfactory way of dispensing justice than justice from case to case. Now what is happening, there were certain more number of cases, similar cases were going around. तो हर केस में जस्टिस केस टू केस करने से अच्छा है कि एक यूनिफॉर्म लॉ बनाओ. आप एक बार इस वुमेन के केस को जज करते हो और आप एक नया एक्ट बना देते हो, दूसरे को जज करते हो, दूसरा एक्ट बना देते हो. देयर मस्ट बी सम यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड for every citizen of the country. So this was the key observation in Shah Bano case. And the second case is Sarla Mudgal case. Sarla Mudgal is actually an NGO leader, Kalyani, named Kalyani. She looks after the oppressed women. Now what happens ki there is a case, Meena Thakur, I'm right about his name, yes, Meena Thakur. His husband married another woman without divorcing her, and by turning into Muslim. यानी कि उसने अपनी पहली बीवी जो हिंदू थी, वो भी हिंदू था, उसे दूसरी शादी करनी थी, तो उसने इस्लाम फॉलो करा और दूसरी शादी कर ली. नाउ हिंदू कोड बिल के अनुसार दिस इज अगेंस्ट सेक्शन 494 आईपीसी. You cannot marry if your wife is living and you are Hindu. और इस्लामिक लॉ में क्या है कि polygamy is accepted. Now you can marry. So there is a conflict actually. There is a conflict. सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजेस भी ऐसे केसेस में सोचते होंगे करूँ क्या मैं, तो क्यों नहीं एक यूनिफॉर्म सेट ऑफ ये जो सेट ऑफ एक्ट्स है उनको एक यूनिफॉर्मिटी दी जाए, एक यूनिवर्सल कोड बनाया जाए, एक यूनिफॉर्म कोड बनाया जाए. तो उस केस में जजमेंट आया था लड़की के लिए, मीना ठाकुर के लिए आया था, एंड देयर वर सेवरल सिमिलर केसेस. सरला मुदगल वाज हेडिंग द केस, एंड कोर्ट told that the second marriage of Hindu husband after his conversion to Islam is a void marriage. It won't be accepted. And they even told that if there is a controversy between two personal laws, then such law should prevail, which is serving the purpose best. So it was held that a conversion to Islam does not amount to automatic dissolution of the marriage performed under Hindu law. It completely means that if there is some conflict between personal laws, then why don't you enact some law? And it is even mentioned in Article 44. Then why the government is not looking after it? The Honorable Supreme Court also directed to have a fresh look at Article 44. Now, the third case we will discuss about is Daniel Latifi and others versus Union of India. Now, Daniel Latifi, the petitioner, filed that the Muslim Women Act, which was addressed into the parliament by Rajiv Gandhi in 1986, is unconstitutional. He told that a divorced woman is entitled to reasonable fair provisions and maintenance within the idat period. This is what is in the act, and he told that this is unconstitutional and has the potential of suffocating the Muslim women, undermines the secular character, which is the basic feature of the constitution. There is no reason to deprive the Muslim women of the applicability of section 125 of criminal procedure, and present act is in violation of article 14 and 21. So he filed against it कि ये जो Muslim Women Act है, this is unconstitutional. We must readdress it. But the respondent and Supreme Court was against it, and they said that personal laws are legitimate basis for discrimination. Now think, this is hypocrisy or not. You cannot discriminate on the basis of caste, creed, religion, sex, but you can discriminate on the basis of personal laws, and these are legitimate basis. I don't know who is the judge here. Now, the court thereby held that the said act was not in violation of Article 14 and 21 of the Indian Constitution, and the case was dismissed. So we have discussed three cases here. And these three cases, इन तीन केसेस से आप ये चीज समझ सकते हैं कि यूसीसी क्यों जरूरी है. These are the only three cases. एक जगह आपने देखा कि there was a conflict between Muslim community. अदर केसेस में आपने देखा कि एक हिंदू जो पहली बीवी को छोड़कर वो इस्लाम में कन्वर्ट होकर शादी. There is a lot of confusion. We need something concrete. ऐसा नहीं चलेगा देश में. इसलिए तो फिर अब आप लोग जज करते हो ना कि कोर्ट में इतने जजेस क्यों नहीं काम करते हैं. ऐसे ऐसे केसेस अगर आते रहेंगे तो दिन में कितने केसेस वो करेंगे, कितने करेंगे. तो जो पर्टिकुलर केसेस होते हैं ना, जो बहुत जरूरी और डिस्कशंस होते हैं, वो डिले होते चले जाते हैं बिकॉज वी हैव ओनली 24 आवर्स. यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड इज वेरी मच नेसेसरी एज पर माय ओपिनियन. नाउ वी विल मूव टू द थर्ड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल असेंबली डिबेट. यहाँ पे हम लोग डायरेक्टली उन चीज़ों को एड्रेस करेंगे जो उस समय के लीडर्स बोल कर गए हैं. नाउ अम्बेडकर, डॉक्टर भीमराव अम्बेडकर का बहुत बड़ा रोल है यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड के नहीं एनेक्ट होने के पीछे और इनैक्ट करवाने के लिए एक चाहत रखने के पीछे. उनका एक मिडिल काउंसिल था. उनका कहना था कि यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड मस्ट बी इनैक्टेड, बट सिंस माइनॉरिटीज आर इन डेंजर, है ना, वो थोड़े खतरे में हैं, उनको अपीजमेंट चाहिए, उनको थोड़ा स्पेशलिटी करना पड़ेगा हमें, तो वी कैन नॉट इनैक्ट द लॉज नाउ. तो हमें एक प्लेटफॉर्म क्रिएट करना है. So he told that court shall apply only to those who make a declaration that they are prepared to be bounded by it, so that in the initial stage the application of the code may be purely voluntary. Article 44 में is actually what was happening. There were certain debates. Munshi Ayyar, there were some Muslim scholars, Ismail Khan. So there were protagonists, antagonists. Debate was very hot. So there must be some middle way. बिकॉज नेहरू तो ये चाहते थे कि वो हिंदू लॉ को कर दें, पारित कर दें, लेकिन बाकी माइनॉरिटीज को एस्केप कर दें. तो देयर मस्ट बी समथिंग मिडिल ना. तो इन्होंने इनको आर्टिकल 44 में इस तरीके से डाल दिया क्योंकि जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने कहा था कि ही हैज एक्सट्रीम सिंपैथी फॉर यूसीसी, ही वांट यूसीसी टू बी एम्प्लॉयड, लेकिन समय इसके लिए भी अच्छा नहीं है. आई वांट टू प्रिपेयर द ग्राउंड फॉर इट एंड दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग दैट इज हिंदू कोड इज वन मेथड ऑफ प्रिपेयरिंग द ग्राउंड. मतलब हिंदूज को आगे बढ़ना चाहिए और एक लॉ कर दिया उन लोगों के लिए कि तुम मुस्लिम्स और अदर माइनॉरिटी कम्युनिटीज को कहोगे, को मोटिवेट करोगे that they will sometimes in the future will come and tell you that please reform our movement, reform our laws, we are like that. तो उसके बाद C.R. Raja Gopal who was with Bhimrao Ambedkar for the drafting of the constitution, he also told it was felt that an attempt should be made to codify the Hindu law, and if this succeeded, क्योंकि इसके अंदर ना ऐसे इंट्रिंसिक मेरिट्स हैं, वुमेन को एम्पावर करते हुए दिखाया गया है, तो जो अदर कम्युनिटीज दे विल follow suit and ask for reconsideration of their law in the light of changed situation. And Dr. Ambedkar also told that not to read much into Article 44. They told his Muslim members and declared the Uniform Civil Code will be applicable only with their consent. Now these statements have some value actually. इनके बिहाफ पर आज जो अपोज करते हैं यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड को या फिर किसी भी चीज को अपोज करते हैं, वो इन स्टेटमेंट्स के बिहाफ पर ही करते रहते हैं. इट इज रिटन इन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, भीमराव अंबेडकर द गॉड ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन टेल्स दिस. तो दिस टाइप्स ऑफ थिंग्स आर बीइंग यूज्ड बाय देम. तो जवाहरलाल नेहरू की आपने यहाँ पे एक थोड़ी सी हिपोक्रेसी देखी कि हिंदूज विल शुड कम फॉरवर्ड और मेक अ ग्राउंड फॉर दैट थिंग. उसके बाद अगर मैं प्रोटैगोनिस्ट की बात करूँ जो इसके सपोर्ट में थे यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड आनी चाहिए, तो देयर वर सम प्रोग्रेसिव वुमेन, राजकुमारी, अमृता कौर, हंसा मेहता. उन्होंने कहा कि आर्टिकल 44 ऑफ डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है उसको अपोज करा. रीजन बिकॉज दे टोल्ड दैट इसको इसलिए इसमें लाया गया ना बिकॉज इट शुड नॉट बी एड्रेस्ड, क्योंकि ये जो डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन होते हैं ये एम्पावर नहीं करते हैं पार्लियामेंट को कि इन्फोर्स कर देना है सिटीजन्स पे. दे मस्ट बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. इनके पे सोचो, इन पे डिस्कशन करो, जरूरी है या नहीं जरूरी है. ऐसा है डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. इसलिए नेहरू ने इसको इसमें डाल दिया. देयर विल बी सर्टेन डिबेट्स, गवर्नमेंट नहीं इनैक्ट कर सकती है. तो दैट वाज द थॉट प्रोसेस ऑफ राजकुमारी, अमृता कौर और हंसा मेहता. उसके बाद हम डॉक्टर श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी जो जनसंघ के उस समय चेयरमैन थे, उनकी बात देखें तो ही टोल्ड, आई नो द वीकनेस ऑफ प्रोमोटर्स ऑफ दिस बिल, they dare not touch the Muslim minority. There will be so much opposition coming throughout India that government will not dare to proceed with it. But of course, you can proceed with the Hindu community in any way you like, and whatever the consequences may be. सोशलिस्ट लीडर जेपी कृपलानी ने भी उस वक्त कहा था कि मुस्लिम्स को भी मोनोगैमी प्रैक्टिस करनी चाहिए. If Hindus are encoded by their bills, then Muslims should also be included, and they are prepared for it. But his wife, Suchita Kriplani, who is a Congress MP, told that Muslims were not quite prepared, but said he hoped government would bring in a usage. So there was actually confusion all over there. Some were supporting, some were not supporting, some were not even supporting to include it in directive principle and completely enact uniform civil code in India at that time. But this was completely overruled by Jawaharlal Nehru and Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, who gave a middle way that Muslims and other minorities will come forward and tell that yes, we are ready to reform the laws. But this is not going to happen anywhere in the near century. Now, Aparna Mahanta, one of the most progressive women leader, she also tells that this is the failure of the Indian state because they are provoking a particular society, a particular patriarchal society. They are taking care of the traditional interest of a patriarchal society, and the women of that society are not going to get the right, even the fundamental right. So these were some statements from leaders. Now we will go to contemporary developments. Okay, before going that, I have completed the phase 2, which covered 3 cases: Sarla Mudgal case, Sahabano case, and Daniel Latifi case. And what we read in this is the analysis of Uniform Civil Code. Now we know why Uniform Civil Code is required, how it is going to be a universal set for a set of laws. What are the conflicts between laws? Why our judiciary system is slow, and how Rajiv Gandhi government made a political bank system by passing 1986, which is completely unconstitutional. So, any questions you can ask?
Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, raise your hand. I'll ask you to unmute yourself. Okay. Sunny, I don't think anyone has any question. I think we can move ahead.
Okay. So, I'm coming to the last phase. Now, what are the contemporary developments? The developments in the recent time, the first is the key Supreme Court observations over Article 44, because in each and every case, almost in each and every case, we have seen in Daniel Latifi case, Supreme Court was against it. But in other cases, we have seen that almost all times, Supreme Court has told to have a fresh look on Article 44. The second thing in 2014, the rise of the right. BJP government comes with its manifesto that it will enact uniform civil code. So it's a development that in the near future we are going to have this uniform civil code, and we will have to support it. Now, what comes into the play in 2017 or 18, 21st Law Commission, headed by B.S. Chauhan, told that it is neither necessary nor desirable. So government requested Law Commission to have a fresh look on the things going inside the country about uniform civil code and present something. If it is required, how it is required, how will it be implemented. So this was the statement by B.S. Chauhan that it is neither necessary nor desirable. So I don't know why he has said, but there is so much controversy after that. And the contemporary development, there are more movements. Women movements have risen in the last decades, and rather than the past, and there are always some notions about gender equality. We are seeing the trends now: boys locker room, girls locker room. So we are actually playing blame game there. So gender equality की बातें completely अब होती रहती हैं. कुछ स्टेटमेंट्स को पढ़ो तो देयर इज अ केस एबीसी वर्सेस द स्टेट. इसमें क्या हुआ था कि एक क्रिश्चियन वुमेन थी, शी वाजंट मैरिड बट शी हैड अ चाइल्ड, so she wanted to make her child nominee, but she was stopped because she had to mention the name of the father. Now she didn't want to disclose it and she was unmarried, so she filed a petition that what should I do about that. तो उस केस में ये एक लॉ फिर से एक लॉ बना था उस केस में भी ये कहा था, वुमेन के फेवर में कहा था सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, उस समय भी यही कहा था कि इट वुड बी अपोजिट फॉर अस टू अंडरस्टूड दैट आवर डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल एनविजन द एक्जिस्टेंस ऑफ अ यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड, बट दिस रिमेन्स एन अनएड्रेस्ड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एक्सपेक्टेशन। फिर मैं बात करूँ एक ब्रिटिश इंडियन इंटेलेक्चुअल तुफैल अहमद की, उन्होंने भी 12 पॉइंट डॉक्यूमेंट दिया था और उसमें कहा था कि देयर हैज बीन नो एफर्ट by the government since 1950. Now it is our legitimate request to the government that yes, we need this is our constitutional right, even because we have to look after this Article 44, and we need uniform civil code in the country. So there are many much cases now. You can see Jose Paul Coutinho versus Maria Luisa. In every case, Supreme Court has almost told that the founder of the constitution has made Article 44. It has hopes and expectations that the state shall endeavor to secure for citizens a uniform civil code. Now, coming to the final part, the pros and cons of UCC. Pros and cons of UCC. Am I audible? Someone messaged.
Yeah, Sunny, you're audible, but what Duke is suggesting is that if you could speak closer to your microphone, it would be more clear.
Okay. Okay, now covering the last point is pros and cons of UCC. Now there are certain bad sides of UCC. I won't see it as a bad side, but yes, they must not be focused about that. Okay, the pros are the to provide equal status to all citizens, to promote gender parity, to support the national integration. This is the most important thing. UCC promises for national integration. However, it is being said by a lot of people, Muslim board, Buddhist leader, Adivasis, one tribal community is also telling that no, it cannot support national integration because India trust in plurality or okay pluralism. Now, and the fifth process to bypass the contentious issue of reform of existing personal laws. So these are the advantages. We can have certain. We can think upon it. Think upon it. Uniform Civil Code has certain advantages from gender equality for a uniform law that can disparate the other laws. It will bypass the contentious issue of reform of existing personal laws. And what are the cons? As said by the antagonist, they say that there will be practical difficulty due to diversity in India because there are some tribal communities which are also against uniform civil code. So it will be very difficult for India to implement it because India is a very diverse country. And now it's a perception that UCC will be encroachment on religious freedom. It will be threat of majority on minority. These are all the statements we can find by visiting various articles by various news sites as quoted by different boards, law boards. Now there is interference of state in personal matters, sensitive and tough tasks. Yes, it is a tough task because now अगर हम किसी के घर पे जाते हैं और उनके घर के चीजों में दखल अंदाज करते हैं तो people will have problem. But I don't think if it is working in the best interest of nation, then it doesn't seem to be any problem. And the last is hypocrisy and by whom. Now I have quoted some points here, some quotations here. What does Rana Ayub say about it? Rana Ayub says in HuffPost India that the silence is of fear, not happiness. It's only when you are intimidated that you are silent. We have been asked to shut up. Muslims are numb right now. The community has gone into a cocoon. People are just going about their routines because they don't want to think anymore. Just think this is a woman. मतलब आप देख सकते हो कि यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड इज वेरी गुड फॉर वुमेन बट शी इज प्रोवोकिंग वन इम्पॉर्टेंट कम्युनिटी ऑफ दिस कंट्री. So who is doing hypocrisy? We have seen Rajiv, whether it is Rajiv Gandhi government, whether it is the recent this journalist. What does Shashi Tharoor say? Shashi Tharoor says that civil code is a desirable objective. It cannot be forced upon people. You must build up consensus by taking every community along before you adopt it. But this is not going to ever happen in India. Now we can see the National Adivasi Parishad has also strongly opposed the proposed uniform civil code in the country, saying it will destroy the tribal culture. Buddhist leader have also opposed it. Certain segments of society have opposed it. You can see Muslim protesters who are telling the government will change, but the Islamic law can never change. I reject uniform civil code. And what is most important is that this personal law board of Muslim will have a collateral damage, because if the personal laws are codified under Uniform Civil Code, they will be targeted. So this is all about one nation, one law. Thank you very much. Now we can go ahead with our interactive sessions. There we can learn a lot about it. Okay, over to you, Shri.
Yes,